Hello everybody and welcome to this video. Today we're going to be looking at a board game app that has just recently released on Nintendo Switch, and it is quite expensive to be upfront. It's about $60 or so. This is Being Stronger While Playing SilverStar Go DX. And while it is expensive, I did pick it up immediately simply because I'm a big fan of classical board games, as I think anybody who follows this channel knows by now. And I'm also a big fan of Go, which is this board game app. Go was not in the Clubhouse Games or 51 worldwide games that Nintendo recently released. So I haven't had my Go fix on the Switch. This is the first time that we've actually had a Go title that is available on the console. So I'm doing this video to give you an idea of what's involved with this app, because it is pretty interesting, especially if you are not so familiar with Go. If you've never played the game before, this is the way to learn, because it does have a very, very comprehensive tutorial system to introduce you to the game, the various concepts, and how to play. And that's the purpose of this video. I'm going to show you some of the tutorial stuff, because the game itself is just a recreation of Go. The AI is pretty good. I will have a review of this up on digitallydownloaded.net as well. But the AI is pretty good in the single player mode against the CPU. You've got a huge range of different AI options. I think there's possibly 9 or 10 different levels. So right from beginner up to what is second Dan, I think, which is the ranking system in Go. That's pretty high. So the AI is pretty robust, and Go itself is a very complex game. So you're going to get your money's worth if you do enjoy classical board games. This is right up there with the best chess apps for comparison. And as you would probably know, if you do like your board games, if you play chess regularly, you do get your money's worth from whatever chess game you buy, because you just tend to keep coming back to it over a period of time, and it just sits there on the hard drive. In fact, there is a chess game on the Switch that's one of my most played games on the console, and it is just because it came out fairly early on, and I have continued to come back to it for the last couple of years whenever I've had a moment where I'm in the mood for a classic board game, and chess is it. So yeah, let's just jump across. So this is the tutorial thing. Bring anyone to Dan Go Classroom. Now you are going to see quite early on the one big problem with this app, and it's that rather than get a proper translator for all the language, they've just run it through a Google Translate, it seems. So the quality of the translation is really poor, but don't let that put you off buying this if you are interested in using this as a way of learning Go, because it is still quite visual in terms of its application. It has lots of little quizzes involved as well, which make sure that you learn even if you don't necessarily follow along with the words of text that are there. So we jump into that and it'll load up. There's a lot of data reading involved. There is quite a lot to this. So here's the classroom as such. This is where you go to learn Go. There's an entrance course, a basic course, and an intermediate course. Each of those has an awful lot of depth to them. So if I jump into the entrance course, we have here, these are all the tutorials of just the entrance course. So there's an explanation mode, which is where it explains whatever rule it's talking about in that chapter, and then question, which is a whole bunch of little quizzes to test that you understand the explanation, and we'll get into that in a second. I just wanted to show you through this. And then we jump over to basic course, and it's much the same. You just have an awful lot here. And then we move over to intermediate course, and there's a lot more there as well. All in all, I think the game quotes about 2,500 either tutorials or little questions to work through. So by the end of this, you will have a full understanding of the complexities of Go. And again, if you've never played Go before, this is a very complex game. It is much more complex than chess. If you look at the way that AI has been used in tests against various games, where the AI has been able to beat a grandmaster in chess for quite some time, it has always been, Go has been, I guess, the last frontier as far as AI development goes. And I think they've developed AI that has been able to beat the equivalent of a grandmaster in Go, but that's only just very recently happened, and it's still not consistent at it. So that there are just so many permeations and complex combinations, and the variations in the way that Go works can become very complex. So that's why there is so much by way of coursework to work through. But it's worth it, because again, this is a great game. So let's jump into the basic rules of Go. Let's just do that. Welcome to Go Classroom. Go has history of thousands of years. See, like I said, they've run it through some kind of machine translator, and it's not very clear at all. It really is not very clear language. So, especially as a game, it increases the potential of your brain, brings you happiness, and stimulates you with no space, creativities. It's just jumbled language. It's a real pity that they didn't go to that effort to get a proper translator, because again, they are asking for $60. This is a premium priced game, $60 in Australia. This is a premium priced game, so you would think that they would go to the effort to make sure that the whole package is quite well produced for the English audience. But then they were probably weighing that against the fact that there would be a handful of people that would be interested in having a Go game on their Switch. So it is a well-known board game, I think. I think most people who know a little bit about classical board games know what Go is. But I don't think by any means it is a mainstream board game. I don't think that most people that are used to playing even the likes of chess and whatever probably aren't too familiar with Go. It kind of is like I guess Hanafada or Shogi. These are games that have a huge audience in Asia, but they don't have a big audience outside of those places. I've never seen a Go game actually played in Australia, I must admit. I have the board, I've got the pieces, I'm all set up to play, but I don't find an opponent so easily. So again, a bit like Hanafada. I love Hanafada, but I never get to play in real life because nobody that I know around me plays, and I certainly can't find any community clubs or anything to play these kinds of games. There's a chess community club, but not Go. So this is explaining the very basic rules of Go, because it is just the first lesson within the scope of all the classes. And it's just showing you that this is how capturing pieces work, which is the core mechanic of Go, of course. What you want to do is you want to circle a piece with your pieces so that there's no escape for that piece. And when you do that, you remove that piece off the board, add it to your pile, and then it has a role in scoring at the end of the game. And there's a couple of rules about what you can and can't do in terms of trying to capture pieces and all of that kind of stuff. It looks like a very simple game to learn, I guess, Go, because it has just two types of pieces and a fairly abstract basic board. But the complexity comes in terms of how you place the pieces, and it's about territory control. You want to have as much space, you want to occupy as much space on the board as possible with your pieces, and given the size of the board and that piece capturing strategy, that it takes a long time to master. A long time. Go is kind of the game you can learn in a couple of hours, but you'll never be the grandmaster that you want to be. Even the top players constantly need to learn when they play Go. See, this is now explaining the scoring. The scoring is basically the territory that you've managed to circle with your own pieces. And that's it. So that was nice and simple. Now what I'll show you as well is how the questions work. So we jump to 1.4, which class 1.4, which is Atari, not the company, the concept in Go. Atari basically just refers to the ability to save a piece from being captured by placing more pieces of your own. Now when you jump into it, you go over to question, and here's where you can test your ability with Go. As you can see, there's an awful lot of little questions, which are basic scenarios that it's just asking you to solve a problem and prove that you understand the rule that was introduced in the class. It's like a test, really. So in this particular quiz, you need to select if the white piece, which is marked by the triangle, is in Atari, which means that it is going to be captured the next turn unless you do something. Now, as you can see, with the rules of Go being what they are, as you can see, there are two spaces which the white piece has. There's no black piece next to the white piece, so there's no way that you can capture that piece next turn. So that means it is not in Atari. It is not in Atari. And I got it right. So that's one question done, and then you keep moving through. This time, in this case, because in the next turn the black player can put a piece down to capture that white piece, that black the black player can capture the white piece next turn. That means that white piece is in Atari now, which means that the white player would need to put another piece down to block the black player from doing that. And I got it right. So 2 questions right. There's 28 questions down that line with this particular quiz. So let's just jump out of it. That's basically the tutorial. That's how all of this works. And there is a lot to work through. You'd be looking at it quite a few hours if you wanted to run through everything in this just to learn the basics. Once you jump out of that, once you've gone through enough of the tutorial that you feel like you're confident with how Go works, you can then jump into a game, and I'll show you that as well because it's pretty good. So you start a new game, and you can choose to play against a human opponent, or you can play against the CPU. And here's the different strengths. So beginner 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's actually 12 difficulty levels, more than I even thought. And you can also change the board size. So the bigger the board, the more complex the game is. 19 is the official, the standard board size. And this is what it looks like. So as you can see, it's nicely presented. It gives you everything that you need to play a full game of Go. I get to go first. It's got these, again, because this is primarily a teaching tool, it actually has these little hints for where you might want to drop the pieces. So let's do that. And then the opponent will take their turn. Imponding. You see the little messages on the side there. When the game's thinking, it has imponding rather than pondering. Again, the translation's absolutely terrible. So the other option that you've got, if you're a little bit confused about what you should be doing, you can press the hint button, and the game will actually tell you where you probably will want to put a piece. At first, this game is so abstract, you're going to have absolutely no idea what you're doing. And even though it has all these recommendations, what do they mean? For all you know, you might as well put a piece there, even though it's not recommending that. Understanding the tactics and strategy of Go and why people put the pieces down in the orders that they do is really, really critical to being able to enjoy the game over the long term. It's a little like chess when you think about it. If you're playing chess and you may know how the pieces move, you may know that the knight moves in that L-shaped fashion, that the pawn moves 1 square or 2 squares from the starting position. You might know that you can castle by moving the king a couple of spaces when it's got an open gap to the friendly rook. You might know how check works when the king is threatened, and you might know that checkmate at the end of the game happens when the king can't move anymore. All of those things you can learn in chess quite quickly. The difficulty with chess is in understanding how to move those pieces effectively and understanding how to control the board, because a lot of beginner players don't understand how important it is to have control of the center of the board. They don't know how to the various openings, because chess has a number of openings that are proven to be successful. And they just haven't brushed up on the theory and the thinking behind chess. Go is exactly the same. It is exactly the same experience where, I might think, well, isn't the point of the game to capture pieces, so let's do that. But this is poor strategy. Even the beginner level AI is going to beat me if I decide to play like this. But if I try to capture the piece, that's naturally how you start wanting to play. You think that the aggressive excuse me, the aggressive move is the right move, but it really isn't. I'm wasting an awful lot of time while my opponent is setting themselves up nicely to occupy big parts of the board. Because again, this is about territory control. It's not about being necessarily aggressive towards your opponent. It's about capturing as much of the territory as possible. And right now, you can already see what's happening. At the moment, I'm already boxed into a corner a little bit because of what I've done. That I've got this part I'm pretty dominant in, but all this over here, he's already starting to establish himself with his pieces, and I'm playing from behind at this point. So anyway, that is all there is to this game. Whether this is worth it or not, of course, is completely subjective. I know that there will be a lot of people that see the cost of it and just go, no, that's definitely not worthwhile. But it is nicely presented. The instructions or the tutorial, while they're in very poor English, they still make sure that you understand how to play the game, and it is the perfect learning tool for Go if you've never experienced it before. This has been just a live playthrough of the game, so it's not edited. I've probably said some things that I've stuttered over or not very clear, so feel free to jump into the comments and ask me to clarify anything that is not clear. Otherwise, you can also check out my review, because my review will talk more about, I guess, the overall quality of the game. If you enjoy my videos, please do like and subscribe, because that really helps me to do a lot more of them, and I've got big plans for the YouTube channel. As I keep saying, I need to get the numbers up before I can start to work on those. And do please consider backing me on Patreon if you enjoy my videos, because even $1 a month really does actually help with building everything that I'm doing and taking it to the next level. If you do want to support the site and my work, but don't want to just throw $1 a month at me or whatever via Patreon, you can also buy my visual novels, because that way you'll be supporting me through the revenue from that visual novel, but you'll also get something to play as well. And people seem to like those VNs, so I think I've done an okay job with them. I think they're interesting. People seem to like them, so you'll get some value out of that. I will have links for all of that in the underneath the video in the description, so check them out if you're interested. Thank you as always for watching, and we will see you at the next video.